Hello everyone, welcome back to another English online session. I hope you all fine. Today I am going to explain you the fourth chapter from the textbook Hornbill. The name of the chapter is Landscape of the Soul. This particular chapter is written by Nathalie Tovroy. The chapter is about how different Chinese art form is from the European art form. The writer uses two stories to make a contrast. European art is about reproducing an actual view, whereas Chinese art is about not erecting a real landscape. European art is an artist's way to let viewers show exactly what he wants them to see in the landscape. Chinese art is the artist's spiritual and inner voice where you can travel from any point and it lets the viewers create a path for their imagination. Before start explaining this chapter, let me give you a brief outline about the writer. Nathalie Tovroy is an artist historian who came in limelight because of her translated work City of Jinns, a book by William Dalrymple. She is the wife of a Belgian ambassador to India. She has traveled various cities of the world with her husband. She holds a master's degree in history of art and archaeology from University of Belgium. So these are the few hints about the writers. Now let me explain you the lesson. A painter named Wu Daozi, who lived in the 18th century, was assigned to decorate a palace wall by the Tang Emperor Zhongzong. It was his last painting. The painter hid his work behind the screen so the emperor only would see it. The emperor, upon looking at the painting, admired many things into that painting, like discovering forest, high mountains, waterfalls, floating clouds, men on hilly paths, and birds in flight. The painter then made him look at a cave in the painting, which was at the foot of the mountain, and compared it with a living spirit. As the painter clapped his hands, the entrance of the cave opened, and he let the emperor know how beautiful the inside of the cave was. And he asked him to show all this to him. So here in the first few lines, it is explained that the Tang Emperor asked Wu Daozi to paint or decorate the wall of the palace, and he has done it in a very marvelous way. Only the emperor could see that. Once he had seen it, he was amazed by the painting and each and everything painted there. And a surprising thing, the painter showed a cave in the foot of a mountain, and when he clapped, it was opened, and he let the emperor enter and enjoy the sceneries. The painter entered the cave, and the entrance closed behind him. The emperor couldn't enter the cave as the emperor was greatly surprised. The painting vanished from the wall. After that, the painter was never seen again. These stories played an important role in classical education in China. Similarly, like the books of Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of such stories, as they help the master to help and guide his followers in the right direction. These stories were considered to be deeply revealing of the spirit, just like the art. There was another famous story, in contrast to the previous one, where the painter wouldn't paint the eye of a dragon. He feared that the dragon would fly out from the painting. It was one of the stories from many others which came from a medieval country in Western Europe. These passages again telling some other stories like the same described in the initial part of this story that a painter in the medieval European country just hesitated to paint eye to the dragon. He thought that if he draw eye on the dragon, it may fly away from the place. So he was saying it is believed that these kind of stories help the masters to guide others, help and guide others like the other art forms. During the 15th century in Antwerp, a master blacksmith named Quentin Metzys falls in love with a painter's daughter. Since the father was not accepting their relationship because of his profession, the blacksmith sneaked into the painter's studio and painted a fly on his latest panel. The painting was so real that the master tried to hit the fly away before he realized that it was just a painting. The blacksmith was accepted into the studio as a trainee. He married the painter's daughter and later became one of the famous painters of his age. The two stories told above are trying to illustrate the form of art into two different regions. In Europe, the art is perfect and like an illusion which resembles something in Asia. The art gives an essence of inner life and spirit. Here another person's experience or story was narrated here. The name of the person is Quentin Metzys. He falls in love with a painter's daughter. Because of his profession, he was a blacksmith. The painter didn't accept that. So this man just sneaked into, without the permission of the painter, just got into the studio and painted a fly. And later the painter came and he thought it was a real fly and even he decided to hit it. Then only he realized that it was a painting. So he accepted the ability or the skill of the painter, and later the person Quentin just married the painter's daughter. Here from all these stories, the bottom line or the main point highlighted here is the art is perfect and like an illusion which resembles something in Europe. So the art forms followed in Europe is perfect, and also it's like a illusion which resembles something. It has the resemblance of something. On the other hand, in Asia, the art gives an essence of inner life and spirit. So it's contrast. The Asian art form is given more important to inner life and spiritual characteristics, but the European art form try to give more reality. So that's the point the author of this essay trying to tell us. As in the Chinese story, the artist reveals the true meaning of his work to the emperor who rules over his territory but didn't know the way within. The emperor only saw the outer appearance of the wall painting. The work was mysterious, and Dao, which means something which has both parts, is what the artist did. As the painting was gone after the artist reached the caves, the motive was fulfilled that some work is beyond material appearance. The Chinese landscape painting is not made with a real viewpoint, but it is a representation of the artist's thoughts. The Western painting in Europe is a figurative art form. The European painter paints a landscape to show you a specific scene of the landscape, whereas the Chinese painter doesn't choose a real point of view. You can enter the painting from any point and can travel anywhere where your thoughts and imagination take you. From these lines, we understood that the Chinese painters who gives more importance to their thoughts and it is the representation of their thoughts. It is more philosophical, but the European painters, they try to present the real landscape. If they are trying to just picturize something or draw something, it definitely resembles the real one. It has the resemblance of the real one. On the other hand, the Chinese art form, it is mysterious, and it is highly philosophical, or it is the representation of the artist thought. Here the Chinese painter trying to present or trying to prove that some work, the art forms are beyond material appearance. It has a different representation in it. The Chinese artist wants you to travel by creating your own path and then come out in a relaxed moment. In China, this mode of seeing a painting is more enjoyable. A horizontal scroll is a form where one section of the painting is opened one by rolling it up to move on the other side. It creates a dimension which is not practiced in any other form of artwork. It requires both mental and physical participation of the viewer. The Chinese painter wants you to enter his mind and see the painting from his thoughts. The landscape created by Chinese artists is spiritual, inner and of conceptual or abstract space. The Chinese concept of art is also expressed as shan shui, which also means mountain water. It is used together to represent the word landscape. The two complementary poles of an image reflect the Taoist view. So here the Chinese view is more complicated. You have to present your mind as well as your physics to understand it. You are just entering the mind or the thoughts of the painter to enjoy the painting. Otherwise, it's quite difficult. The Chinese artist wants you to travel, so it's like a travel, but it is creating our own path. So it is more spiritual, inner, and of conceptual, or it is abstract, not concrete. By looking at for the first time itself, you cannot understand the Chinese art. So you have to understand the thoughts of the painter. Then only you could understand the painting. So this Chinese art forms are a little bit complicated. It is a little bit difficult to understand. On the other hand, the European paintings are a resemblance or the representation of the real thing. So the first look itself, you will understand it. The mountain in the landscape is yang, which means to reach vertically towards heaven, stable, warm, and dry in the sun. Whereas the water is the yin, which is a receptive and feminine aspect of universal energy. The yang is active and masculine and the opposite of yin. There is a third essential element which is middle void, which is the place where they interact. This middle void can be compared to pranayama, which means to breathe in, retain, and breathe out. Here, the suspension of the breath is the void in this meditation process. It is an essential part as nothing can happen without it. Hence, the white unpainted space in Chinese landscape is equally important. The middle void is where a man finds an important role. Man is the element of communication in the space between heaven and earth, which are the two poles of the universe. Man's presence is essential. It is not being lost or suppressed due to high peaks, but he is the eye of the landscape. So here, to understand this Chinese art, we must understand the conceptual presentation of these things. Here, this art form is more philosophical. The mountain represents as yang, more masculine, and the river is represents as a flow of energy, which is feminine, and the human presence as a communication channel. Okay, so it's more philosophical. The representation of the existence of all these things. So from these points we could understand that a master, if you look at the first story, the king enjoyed all the things, but only the master could enter the cave, and he vanishes in the cave. It's symbolically saying that only the master could enjoy the inner sense of the art form, not everyone. So if you want to enjoy that, you should enter in their thoughts. So finally, this chapter is telling us this Chinese art form is more philosophical, more spiritual. On the other hand, the European art form gives more importance to realism. Hope you understood the explanation of this chapter. It is not like a simple story. It has more philosophical ideas. Go through the text more than once. Don't forget to have a dictionary while reading. See you in the next class. Bye.